Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and it is Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, and time for a sales logic. That's right. You were probably shopping yesterday, watching a lot of football, but still you have time to sell. I'm hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. Mark, it is early where you are. You're still on the West Coast, right?
Yes, yes. It's dark 30, and hey, it's going to be a great day of football today. So I'm going to have to figure out how to work and watch football. But hey, we'll get it done. So,
That's right. That's right. All right. So what's on the docket for today?
well, today we're going to be talking about trust and why it matters in the sales process, how to build it, and more importantly, how to build it in a virtual world because many of us are still living in a virtual world. I mean, you and I are well like this right now. This is virtual, so it's very very critical. We got a great question that comes from a sales manager dealing with that, and hey, the lightning round. 10 best trust building strategies. I think it's going to be a good show.
I think it is too. All right. I'll pop the video and let's rock and roll.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
Mayor, before you tell the audience how the show works, let me just say, hey, the power of scheduling automation has never been more important than it is today. Think about it in a virtual world. Your sales team needs a solution to easily meet with prospects at the right time every time. With Calendly, you can turn more meetings into revenue, accelerate your sales cycle, and increase your win rate when you use Calendly to automate your scheduling. Finish the year strong and request a demo of Calendly today. You and I both use it. Hey, why don't you tell the audience how the show works?
Yeah, so I did. I switched over to Calendly a couple of months ago, and I got to tell you, I love it. Welcome to Derek. Welcome to our partner and friend and trusted advisor, Jack Hubbard. Every week we come to you. That's even right after a holiday. We are still selling. We've got a hot topic. We've got a question from you, the audience. We always want you to be a part of Sales Logic. So go to saleslogicpodcast.com, type in your question, reach out to Mark, reach out to me. We'll feature you right here on the show. We tell you a book you ought to be reading, and just so that you get return on investment, we leave you with a lightning round. So, Mark, let's dive into the question today.
Well, the question comes to us from Spencer in Arlington, Virginia. He says, the pandemic is over, yet our leadership has made the decision to continue to limit travel and keep our sales team virtual. And while my sales team does not like it, I, Spencer, tend to agree with the decision. Our clients like meeting via Zoom or phone now, and the cost savings are incredible. My question is, how do I help my team make the transition both mentally and in their ability to improve their relationships and trust building skills? Yeah, it's different when you're doing it like this, much different.
Yeah, it really is different. And Mark, I love this question. And Spencer, thank you so much for sending it in. Because even though for most practical purposes, the pandemic for most companies is over. While people are still getting, sick with it, we seem to just keep marching forward. Yet a lot of sales teams have made the decision not to jump back on planes, not to get back into their cars, and to continue to meet this way virtually. So how do you establish trust? Well, I think, Mark, a better place to start is, why do you want to establish trust? I think it's so important to talk about the fact that trust is the foundation of the relationship. One thing that the virtual world has really changed is it not only means that you can call on people anywhere in the world, but they can buy the product anywhere in the world. Finding a product to buy is not what your customers and prospects are looking for. Somebody they can trust, somebody they can believe in, and somebody they value and can count on. That is the piece. So the very first sale you're making is cementing that relationship, and the relationship cements with trust.
You just touched on several key things there because customers can find whatever they're looking for the world over. There are more than a few competitors all of us have out there. The challenge we have is, again, going deep, deep, deep. And that's why you and I have talked about this a lot. We have to know who our customer is and really love on them. Well, what's the code word for love? Trust. You've got to create that level of trust. But here's the whole thing. You've got to be able to stand out and apart. And it starts with you. It's not your product. It's not your service. It's you. And this is what I find so many salespeople, especially with major companies, they try to rely on the logo. They try to rely on, the product that they sell. That's going to create trust. And they themselves are jerks. Let me tell you something. That doesn't fly in today's world. Because again, there are so many options out there. You've got to create that one-to-one relationship. I just saw yesterday a certain airline, I'll go ahead and call it out, Frontier Airlines, is no longer offering telephone service. And there's no longer voice service. It's all via text message, WhatsApp, whatever. Now think about that from a customer service. Think about that from a trust factor. Are you going to trust that airline? I to me, that drops it down, which tells me this: trust is not difficult if you just be a human being and treat people right. Okay, I know there's a lot more to that, and I know you want to add on it. So, hey, go ahead and run with it.
Well, I mean, you're so right. I mean, think about it from the customer's perspective, but especially in a virtual world, Mark, I'm going to talk about something that you talk about all the time, and that is that your reputation arrives before you do. And in a virtual world, it is important to understand that people are going to do research about us before they ever interact with us. This morning I was reaching out to a prospect before this call. I mean, truly, even a little bit of a suspect more than a prospect. I'm not exactly sure they're perfect for me. It was a total cold call, but I went on to do a little bit of research about them, and boy, they haven't posted on LinkedIn in probably 2 years. And I got to tell you, it gave me a little bit of a pause in the pit of my stomach. And I thought, well, I have the contact information. I'm going to go ahead and reach out. But when I did my follow up, I'm not that intent on following up that closely with this prospect because they're not managing their reputation. And you've got to, the more people can find out about you, who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and especially what your position is on challenges and problems they may have, the more you build trust with that prospect.
You just, again, hit on something so key. People think, well, you don't start to create trust until you start to communicate with the person. No, it starts long before then. Your reputation does arrive before you do. Earlier this week, you and I were having a phone call with Sam Richter. And remember, he made the comment, and God, the guy is brilliant, isn't he? Anyway, he was talking about SEO, and he says, one of the reasons I do what I do on LinkedIn, this is Sam talking, is to help from an SEO standpoint. Because again, just like you did, you went out and you looked at their LinkedIn profile. You probably Googled them. What comes up? Your reputation. You create trust long before the first words are ever spoken to that customer. And we got to keep that in mind.
So think about this. I mean, you're calling on a prospect and you're going to do a virtual call with them. The very first thing they're going to do is Google you. I mean, we all do it, right? I mean, if I said, that you need a certain jersey to watch a football game today, you'd go on and Google where to buy it. And what pops up matters, right? Now, it's not everything, but if you get that piece right, you've made a couple of steps down the trust path. And when you knock on the door, the probability that it will open is better. But once it opens, there's a couple of things you got to focus on there. And I always tell people that, you need to actually slow the sales process down. We get so excited. If Mark will actually meet with me, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I could do to help Mark build his business. I just start like a water fountain, just gushing with ideas. But if I want to build trust, I need to listen to Mark first, and not just listen, but listen and validate what Mark is saying. Because if I listen and validate, Mark knows he's been heard. And being heard is huge in the trust department.
I do have to call you out, say that I need a jersey to watch a football game. You probably don't even know any of the teams that are
I don't.
playing today.
I tell you, Mark, here's the greatest thing. I set my tee times. I'm in South Carolina right now. The Clemson Carolina game is on. And the only
Yeah.
reason I know the Clemson Carolina game is on is because I look to see what time it is, because nobody will be on the golf course.
Hey, you know what? It just allows you to play 4 balls at one time, because that's the way you get your golf game as good as it is. Hey, I want to come back to something that you were talking about there. You were really jumping into this whole thing that people are going to Google you, of course, before they talk to you, and your reputation and all these various pieces. But you said something that was very, very interesting. Here's the deal. You have to understand your reputation is also built around who you associate with. And now, why do I jump on this? Because here's the situation. You can be an outstanding employee. You can be a very trustworthy person. And I love the word trust. It's almost embarrassing we have to talk about it. It's kind of like integrity. But if you work for a slime-filled company, hashtag slime-filled company, what's that going to do to your reputation? It's going to bring it down. So you do have to be mindful of who you associate with and who you sell for. Now, does that mean that you need to automatically go out and quit the company you're working for? No. It just means that, you know what? You're going to have to probably work a little bit harder to create that level of trust. And you know what? That should come very natural, because for all of us, the way we sell is we slow down to speed up. We slow down to listen, just what you said, to build the relationship. You slow down. What does that allow you to do? It allows you to speed up when you get to the end. But too many salespeople, I know you talk about this a lot. They just race right to close, and they forget all those key steps.
Yeah, it's well, I think a lot of it is the fault of sales training, right? I mean, we're taught to quote unquote sell, and sell somehow has translated to closing the deal. Whereas you have to sell the relationship first, and that really comes with the listening piece. Again, in an uncertain marketplace, people want to be heard. And it's also, it's funny. I was telling Rob last night, we were at dinner, and I'd gotten back home in November. I just wrote a blog about this, and I have most of my credit cards with American Express, and I pay my credit cards off every month. Now, Mark, you and I travel for a living. We charge quite a bit on our credit cards every month, and I pay them off at the end of every month. Well, I got home last Friday night from Austin, Texas. You and I were both in Austin, and I couldn't get out of the Atlanta parking lot. They were having a serious problem with their credit card machines. I ended up just paying cash and getting out of there. But when I went to go check my credit card the next morning, they had charged my credit card 3 times. So I reached out to American Express to express my challenge. And before they would even talk to me about what my problem was, the fact that my credit card had been charged 3 times, they said, you have a $50 charge on your one credit card that looks like it's a day late. Now, I traveled the entire month of November. I paid thousands off already on that credit card. I've done for probably 10 years. I paid those credit cards every month. I was so angry. And the reason I was angry was they were pretty much telling me, now the poor little person who was helping me probably got a policy that said, say this first, but they didn't hear me. And when you do not hear your customer, you say your goals are more important than their goals. And that breaks trust.
That breaks trust, because what was that person doing? Probably sticking to the script.
Yeah.
Sticking to the script. And it goes back to this whole piece that so much of sales training isn't sales training, it's product knowledge.
Yeah.
And here is the way that you communicate, yada, 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 yada. And we do not spend the time to develop the relationship. And coming back to the question, because we've drifted a long ways from the question, but Spencer brings us up. You can do this just like you and I are doing right now. We're interacting virtually. You can create trust. If you do not feel you can create trust virtually, you won't. But if you feel that you can create an element of trust, you can. And let me just share a couple of quick things. Here's the whole thing. One of the things that breaks down trust, but how many times do you get on a Teams meeting each week? Do you use Teams much?
I use it, I don't know, I'd say 50% of the time.
Okay. Have you noticed how much longer it takes to connect to a Teams meeting?
It is crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And Zoom and some other things you can connect to pretty quickly. But what's interesting is I've had to make a note that if I'm getting on a Teams meeting, I've got to connect several minutes early because otherwise I'm showing up late. Now think about this from a virtual standpoint. You show up 2-3 minutes late to a virtual meeting just because the Teams connection is taking time. And I don't know why. Okay. It happens. But what does that do? It automatically sends a signal that this meeting is not as valuable as it should be. And see, so again, we create trust by our simple actions of being there. In the words of Vince Lombardi, ex-Green Bay Packer coach, on time is late, period. Drop the mic.
Yeah. It's funny. Thanksgiving evening, I agreed to meet with someone who was selling a product I'm kind of interested in. And I've got just a really busy schedule. And I knew by Thanksgiving evening around 7:00, we'd be sitting on the couch just watching a movie. So I agreed to jump on a call that evening with this person who was in Australia. And they showed up 10 minutes late to the meeting. And now they were selling to me. And I listened, and they didn't tell me they were just late. It wasn't like I got something 5 till that said I'm running behind. But you're so right. Like, and Mark, you probably are too. I'm so hyper aware of this because this is what we do for a living, right? So analyzing it when I'm interacting with somebody trying to sell to me, I'm really paying attention to what they're doing well and what they're not doing well. They had sent me reminders out the wazootie. I got them via text. I got them via email. They sent me a calendar invite with the Zoom meeting. And they dotted all the I's. They crossed all the T's. And then they showed up 10 minutes late to the meeting. And I've got to tell you, in that 10 minutes, my desire to buy that product sank. And the reason it sank was they were telling me how important this relationship was to them. And it wasn't very important if they would show up late and not even tell me.
There's so much of what and this is this whole virtual piece of respecting time, because one of the things by being virtual, it does allows us to have a lot more meetings every day. This is why one of the things that I tell salespeople, hey, you know what? Don't block an hour for the meeting. Block 45 minutes max for the meeting, to give you 15 minutes to get ready for the next meeting. Because I see too many salespeople, what they do is they schedule an hour meeting, it goes an hour, and then they're automatically late to the next meeting. Schedule it for 45 minutes. Here's a couple of, if you go back to the early days of the pandemic, remember when we first got on Zoom, everybody wanted to hear everybody's backstory. It was, how are you doing? How are you dealing with it? Okay, we're long past that now. But I think what's happened now is we have to create trust, have to create a level of respect and cordiality. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is accepting and respecting people. If somebody has a dog that jumps up on their lap during a meeting, hey, that's okay. Hey, that's okay. Ask them what their dog's name is. How long, engage with the person from a personal standpoint. We create trust by allowing ourselves to be personal. What does that mean? We allow ourselves to be vulnerable. I happen to be sitting in a home. I'm out in Seattle. I'm sitting on a couch. It's dark 30 out here, and I'm not. It's okay. It's totally fine. You're in your home down at the beach, in Charleston. Great. It's allowing us to be who we are, and I think that is one key way to create trust.
It's so funny you would say that, because somebody asked me the other day about how you and I have been so consistent with doing this podcast. And I said, well, wherever we are in the country, in the world, we do the podcast. And I was sharing that, even sometimes it means we get up at 6 because we're on the West Coast. And I was sharing that time that I was in Hawaii working, and I got up at 3 a.m. and I just got on the podcast. I still had my jammies on and my hair was in a bun and I wasn't wearing any makeup. But I mean, you just get to know who we are, right?
And there's a level of trust and respect. See, because like you and I, we would never skip a show no matter where we are in the world. Right.
Right.
I mean, I was up at 4 a.m. this morning, and because I'm on the West Coast, and okay, I just get up early. But here's the whole thing. I would not let you down.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the key thing. See, trust is a two-way street. Trust is not one way. Trust is not what you say. It's what the other person perceives and believes about you.
Oh,
That's what's key.
yeah. Which, Mark, I think leads to one of the really important pieces of trust. And this is where I think salespeople really drop the ball. And that is that the moment that somebody buys a product from you, they have told you, I trust you. And at that point, they let go of thinking they need to choose the next product or service they sell. They assume that you are going to stay in touch with them and offer products and services. I always say that the worst thing that can happen to you is not that you don't get the sale. It's that your customer finds out about a product or service they need from somebody else other than you. Because if they do, if my customer, my longtime customer, has to go to Mark to find out that there's a better product for their company, they don't trust me to take care of them anymore. They've moved on. Follow up once your existing customers, once somebody buys from you, they're your responsibility to make sure they understand all the new products and services that you have to offer.
And that's why I like to say you don't close a sale, you open a relationship.
Okay.
And it continues and can see trust is not a destination. Trust is a journey. And we have to understand that. And that means it has to come through in everything. And this is why one of the key things, and you and I have both been victims of this, that, some salesperson isn't able to deliver something on time or something like that. And they make up some big bogus reason. Just tell me what it is. Deliver me bad news up front. Don't sugarcoat. I tell this to salespeople. Don't sit there and hide behind something and throw somebody else in the bus. You want to create trust. When there's an issue in your company and something doesn't happen, don't sit there and blame customer service department. Don't go blame some other department. Hey, accept the responsibility and say, hey, you know what? We made a mistake, but I am going to get this taken care of. And along the way, I'm going to keep you informed. But do not ever throw anybody else under the bus, period. Accept it, own it.
Yeah. Mark Bregman has a great comment here. If you don't listen, you'll never discover the problem. You'll only hear a pain, and a pain isn't always a problem. So how can you build trust if you aren't going to find what's truly bothering your prospect? And then I love Jack Hubbard's suggestion here of a book, good friend of ours, Look Me in the Eye, a great book by Julie Hansen, all about how to sell virtually. And then let's see where you got great comments coming in here.
Oh, we got great comments coming in. And see, this is another key piece. If you're not willing to take the time to listen and play back, but here's where trust really comes into play. Right now, you and I are looking at the camera. My camera's at eye level. How many times have you been on a call with somebody? And this again, Look Me in the Eye, Julie Hansen's book, great book. Pick it up, buy it, read it, study it. Because she talks about these various things about eye contact. I'm looking right in the camera. I can't see you. I'm using a different configuration here today, so my computer's down a little bit lower. But I'm giving you eye contact. This is absolutely key in everything we do.
Yeah, I have to laugh. I shot a video the other day for a client and I wasn't doing eye contact. I looked at it back. It looks so bad. I wouldn't watch that thing. I wouldn't believe a word I was saying. But Jack says we're in this forever normal when virtual conversations will continue into the future. Trust can be built virtually, but not without training and coaching. So right. I mean, Spencer, you need to get in there and you need to explain the why you're selling virtual now. Then you need to get in and work one-on-one with your people. It is so incredibly key.
See, it comes down to that. Yes, it's training and coaching, but it's creating confidence. When people are confident, it is amazing at how they create trust. Now, here's the downside. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance doesn't create trust. Confidence is about you being confident in taking the time to understand and listen to the other person where they're coming from. Confidence is about you having the knowledge that you can help that person, either directly or referring them to somebody. Confidence is about you being willing to put the other person first ahead of you. That's how you create trust.
Yeah, I love what Bill Snow says here. If you're selling, you better look the part. Stop wearing T-shirts and wearing baseball hats with a poor background. And Jack Hubbard, you are so right. Cross-selling builds trust and creates wins. The more you proactively reach out and take care of your customers, the more you are going to build trust. Mark, we are about at the end of this show.
Yeah, wow. I didn't realize. Yeah, hey, we got to do a book here real quick. Let me just say that. Hey, before we tell you about the book we think you should read, let me remind you about Calendly. Accelerate your sales cycle, increase your win rate when you use Calendly to automate your scheduling. It's the tool we use to manage our work days and achieve our sales goals. Okay, the book. David
Well,
Horsager, right?
I'm going to stay with Julie Hanson's Look Me in
Okay.
the
Oh,
Eye.
wow.
I do. I think Jack Hubbard's
Yeah.
made a great suggestion here. We're talking about virtually. I don't know anybody who understands virtual sales more than Julie Hanson. So let's just stay with Look Me in the Eye by Julie Hanson. So let's roll into the lightning round. We'll put a link in the show notes here so you can get the book. But it is she's such an interesting perspective. She is an actor by training and background, and really kind of understands busting that fourth wall to really connect with the audience.
Yeah, great. I didn't realize time is slipping. Hey, okay, lightning round. Top 10 best trust building strategies. Go.
Number one, build your reputation.
Ooh, I love that. Stay on social media. Not enough to own it, but to make sure that people understand who you are.
Yeah, I would say that you need to, when you do have a virtual call, respect the time, set an agenda, send it ahead of time, let them know the technology that's going to be used. If they need something to download that technology, put the time into setting the meeting up.
Show up early for the meeting and get done early with the meeting.
Yeah, send a quick follow-up after the meeting. This is what we talked about. These are the next steps, but you take the responsibility for the next steps.
Respect the person and the environment wherever they're coming from. If regardless, make sure you keep it personal, allowing yourself to become vulnerable.
Yeah. Do the research. Do not ask a question that you could have found the answer to online. Start out by setting up that research, what you've learned, what you know, and then dive into the good open-ended questions you want to ask in that call.
I'll share one more. You share one more. Let's close it down. Hey, you don't close a sale. You open a relationship. Trust is not a destination. It's a journey.
Yeah, focus on your existing customers. Really reach out and offer products and services that can make their life better. Realize when I bought a product from you, I trust you, respect that, and take care of that relationship.
I love that. Hey, with that, we want to say a huge thank you to Calendly for helping us manage our scheduling needs through automation and for their sponsorship of the Sales Logic podcast. Be sure to visit the link in our show notes and request a demo of Calendly today. With that, hey, thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
Uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
Very logical. All right. Go enjoy a day of football or activity and eat lots of leftovers, but don't forget to make your sales calls. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic. Until then, hope you close a deal.